Hello and welcome to Tech24. I'm Annelise Borges. Coming up, Facebook reaches a new milestone, 1 billion users. But its founder, Mark Zuckerberg, is not ready to celebrate. Share prices falling and criticism over privacy policies on the rise. We'll take a closer look at Facebook and the tough road ahead. And on Test24, we'll show you several objects printed in 3D. But first, in a status update shared last week, Mark Zuckerberg proudly announced Facebook now has 1 billion friends. Precisely at 12:45 p.m. Pacific time on September 14, Facebook hit the 10-digit user mark. That means 1 in every 7 people on the planet connects through the website. It also means that if it was a country, Facebook would be the 3rd largest in the world, behind China and India. The social network has done what so many companies can only dream of. The billion-user milestone is a tremendous moment for them. But if you're planning to write on Zuckerberg's wall to congratulate him, I suggest you don't mention the share price. As Facebook struggles to make money from its user base, and particularly from its mobile apps, the battle to stabilize a falling share price continues. Add that to the recurrent criticism over its privacy policies, and you have the founder of Facebook in a very challenging position. In a recent interview last week, Mark Zuckerberg spoke about Facebook's tough cycle. He said, "We're obviously facing a tough cycle right now, and that doesn't help morale." Tom Burgess-Watson is with me in the studio. Tom, is Facebook facing an identity crisis?
Certainly sounds that way, doesn't it? As you were saying there, why are they not reaching out to more than half of the people using Facebook on their smartphones? They don't seem to be getting any advertising revenue to speak of out of those people. And yes, they seem to be very far behind Google when it comes to really cashing in on that success, because 1 billion users is great, but it isn't just a quantity game. There's got to be some quality in it as well. And they've got to turn those 1 billion users into people who are going to provide some stream of revenue for the company.
It's like we're talking about a company torn between users and advertisers, right? With 1 billion users, yet still dependent on the 80% of revenue coming from advertising.
Absolutely, and that's what's sent the share price tumbling down from that $38 IPO all the way down to, we saw lows of around the $17.22 mark, $17.22. And some people say it could be worth even less than that, maybe even $15 a share could be the right amount. But as you say, it's all about the money. Where does it come from? And that's what Facebook really needs to cash in on. They need to really increase the amount of money they're getting from revenue, from advertising and the other sources that people are looking at.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are there other ways to make money on Facebook? Do they have any new plans?
Well, they have this idea now for gifts on Facebook. Now, forget about the virtual gifts that we all used to give and receive, the aquarium and everything else.
Did you get a lot of those?
Yeah, I did. I had an octopus and a starfish and a few other things, but it's disappeared now. But we're talking about real gifts this time, Annalise. Real gifts that you could actually buy and give to your friends with a cash value. Now that, if Facebook manages to get it right, could translate into big business for the company. And of course, there are games as well, which also provide around 15% of Facebook's revenue. Zynga is one game maker in particular that gets talked about a lot. They make Cityville, Farmville, the Mafia Wars, Words with Friends. But unfortunately, things don't seem to be going too well for them right now, because they've got to keep that catalog of games fresh and exciting. Otherwise, people get pretty bored and change channel.
Let's talk a little bit now about privacy. Facebook has never been particularly open about the changes it makes to its policies and interfaces, for example, when the timeline became mandatory. But what really scared users was this recent story of a bug that allegedly made private messages show up on public timelines.
And that is still being investigated. A lot of people very concerned. And that news got around so quickly by virtue of the fact that people communicate with social networks. So news of that got out very quickly. Everyone quickly checking their timelines to make sure that there was nothing too revealing that had been posted on their Facebook page. But yes, a lot of concerns about privacy. How is a data bank that big, 1 billion users' information in there, going to use that information? And, there was another concern as well, Annalise, about facial recognition technology for photographs. Do people really want to be recognized in the background of other people's photographs? Possibly not. So a few question marks and a few things that Facebook needs to do more of to convince people that they're taking this very seriously.
While many users complain about those elements, for example, few actually shut down their account. Their business and personal lives are woven into this monster network. Is getting out realistic?
the golden rule of anything online, Annalise, is that it never really goes away. You send an email, you post something online, it's always out there somewhere. So if you want to leave Facebook and you want to come back again in a few years' time, you might just find that everything is just where you left it. But yes, there are a lot of alternatives out there now to Facebook. If you think back 5 years, MySpace was actually ahead of Facebook in terms of users. That's now obviously a massive, the tables have turned to an enormous degree. But yeah, there are a lot of other alternatives out there. There's Bebo, there's Weibo, there's LinkedIn, there's Twitter, Tumblr. There's an endless list. Google Plus, Pinterest, so many things targeting niche interests, different things for different age groups, different communities, different religious communities in different countries. So yeah, there are a lot of alternatives out there, and leaving Facebook is a real proposition for people. And just having a billion users in itself might not tell the full story. Are those billion users all active?
All right, thank you very much for that, Tom. And you don't go away. Test 24 is next. Now, you may not have heard of 3D printing, but you soon will. Just as a laser printer reproduces a document using ink on paper, a 3D printer takes a digital model of an object and uses melted plastic, poured in layers as thin as 1/10 of a millimeter, to reproduce it in the physical world. 3D printing has existed for years in research labs and design studios. The big news now is that 3D printers are becoming more accessible to the public. Tom Watson is proud to show us a few objects that he has printed. Is that right, Tom?
Well, I have to confess, Annalise, I had a little bit of help with these objects.
Oh, okay.
What you can do is you can get on an app on your iPhone, and you can order something that you have designed, or you can order something that's already been designed for you, like this coat hanger, which has been reproduced in ceramic, and it gets mailed to you. It's probably just a matter of time, as you said, before everyone has a plastic producing 3D printer. HP talking about 1,000 euros perhaps for a home use 3D printer, where you can make things like an iPhone cover, like these ones here that have been made using 3D printers. Now, the options are endless for the sorts of uses you can imagine this being put to. If you go to someone's house and you break a coffee cup, Annalise, tell them no worries.
It's not the end of your friendship.
I'll print you a new one.
You can print a new one. That's great, but what about copyrighted material? If we're able to simply take the model of an object from the internet, for example, like you said, and replicate it, don't we violate some copyright uses?
I think, Annalise, this is something in its infancy. We're in the very embryonic stages of 3D printing. So there are a lot of concerns like that one, and safety concerns too, because there have been reports that you could even print a weapon. You could print a drone. We've seen reports of people who printed a little aeroplane that they can make fly all around the place. So, the options are endless for 3D printing. It's something we don't know too much about yet. But it's going to be like 30 years ago when you think about people talking about supercomputers and how small computers have become and how mainstream they've become. This is something I think we should keep an eye on. 3D printing is definitely here to stay. And if you want to fix a car part in your car, it might just be a question of printing a new one at some stage in the future.
Thank you very much for that, Tom. And thank you for watching this edition of Tech24. Don't forget you can give us your feedback on the show via Facebook or on Twitter at TechF24. And finally, Neil Young wants to save the sound of music. The musician is launching a high-end music service to combat the supposed poor sound quality of MP3. Neil Young plans to launch a high-resolution download service, and he release his own line of portable players. The project is called Pono. We leave you today with Neil Young's Harvest Moon. I'll see you next week.
Just like children sleep.